What up, y'all? It's me again. I'm back. But now I'm kind of stuck. I don't know if I should record me or record... Yeah, this is downtown Cleveland. This is my city. We got the Key Bank building here. We got Tower City, where I spent a lot of time. This is a building that they're working on. I don't know what this is, but I will tell you, I was here like maybe 3 weeks ago, and this thing was... Well, I can't really show you where it was, but it was nowhere near where it is now. Rockefeller, I think that's a hotel or something. These are the buses I drive, or that I'm learning to drive still. I'm not officially out on my own yet, but I'm off of work today. So I'm just chilling, just hanging out. But let's go ahead and start this episode of Honest Society. So let me think of where I want to start off. Just give me a second. I'm going to think of where to start off at. Yes. Okay, so I guess I'll tell you guys like how my addiction started with the video games. How I became so addicted to video games. So I gotta go way, way back to when I first started playing video games. Now, when I was growing up, I saw my father. How you doing? I saw my father and my uncles playing video games. They were playing, I saw them playing Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct for the Super Nintendo. I remember that. Because, you know, back then I was playing with toys and stuff like that. You know, I'm a little kid. I think I was like, actually, I think I was like 4 or 5 years old. The first one I remember seeing was Killer Instinct. I remember seeing Killer Instinct before I saw Mortal Kombat. I knew right then and there. I knew that's what I wanted to do. So, I don't think I played right then and there. I wanted to play, but I didn't know how, right? I think it was probably a few years after that. They were all that I ever talked about. If you ask any of my family, they'll tell you all I was saying was Mortal. One of the first things I learned how to say was Mortal Kombat. I was saying Mortal Kombat. We went to go see the movie. I wouldn't shut up about Mortal Kombat. Actually, when I was younger, they wanted me to do a commercial, right? They wanted me to do a commercial. I forget what the commercial was for. Oh, no, I do remember. It was for Oscar Mayer Wiener, right? I guess they were doing some things somewhere and they were like, hey, bring your kid. We'll put them in a commercial. I didn't want to do it. I didn't care about that. All I cared about was Mortal Kombat. So my family tried to get me to go and do this commercial. The only way they can get me to agree to do it is they promised they would get me some Mortal Kombat toys or figures or something that I wanted. It was something Mortal Kombat related. I remember, it's crazy that I can remember back that far, but I remember thinking like, oh, there's going to be like Mortal Kombat balloons, Mortal Kombat toys, Mortal Kombat. I was so... You know, I don't know what it was about Mortal Kombat, but that's all I was thinking about, bro. And I don't want to spend too much time going through this because I guess it's not really all that necessary. But basically, you know, fast forward a little bit later, and it went from just being Mortal Kombat to just video games in general. You know, I was just so into video games. It's like all I cared about. For the most part. Oh, look, we got a cyber truck. I never seen one of these things in person. But, that kind of threw me off. But yeah, it's like all I cared about was video games for a long time. And it didn't just stop from when I was like a little kid. like a little kid. What's going on? It's all right.
I really need something, bro. I was wondering if you could help me out. I like your mustache too.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
Man,
it.
I need a coffee, bro. If you come out with like
Oh, coffee. Okay.
Yeah.
Where you want to get one from?
Right here. Right from Jake's.
Okay.
But I ain't want to disturb you.
No, that's cool. I might go for a coffee too, man. We can both get a coffee.
What is that though?
That's that Cybertruck. You ain't never seen one of them before? I ain't never seen one in person.
Yeah.
So this one over here?
Yeah. I like some change.
What's that?
I was gonna buy it. I need some change. I'm short.
Oh, no, that's cool. I got you. I'm about to go get a coffee too, man. So we can both get a coffee.
Okay.
What you want, yours just black coffee, or you want some cream in there?
Cream,
Oh, okay. Where's the, you don't got no button on that? All right, I'll be right back, y'all. I'm about to go grab a coffee. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. Sorry for the interruption. You never know what you're going to see. But you should expect that when you go downtown. You know, there's a lot of people down here, and we got a lot of homeless. But, man, I'm trying to remember where the hell I was even at. Basically, I was telling you guys where my video game addiction started. Yeah, this coffee's too hot to drink yet. It started when I was really young, and I think where it really became an issue is when I started going to school, and all I would think about were video games. When I went to church, all I would think about was video games. So the whole time that I'm out at these places, all I'm thinking about is video games. You know, this is Jack's Casino in Tower City, right behind it. Another one of my buses. Yeah, I even know how to drive that long bus there. I've only driven it once, but I drove it. But they were like my number one priority, you know? That's like all I could think about was video games. And it's funny because my mother was telling me when I was younger, my father made it a point to tell her, like, he needs his video games, you know, make sure he has his video games. And it's like, I don't think they realized how harmful these things would be. And I can't blame video games for everything. You know, I had a great time, and I still enjoy video games. I mean, well, not now. I'm probably going to take off the rest of the month because it's like most of my life has been spent, in a way, I've kind of worshipped video games. You know what I'm saying? It even transpired over into my music. You know, you listen to my music and it's all video game based because that's all I really cared about for a long time, for most of my life. Like I said, I think my struggles in school, the reason I was having a hard time focusing on school is because my focus wasn't on school. My focus was getting, you know, further in Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. That's where my focus was. That's all I cared about. And that's all I prioritized. So, I mean, over the years, it would get a little less, you know what I mean? Because I would start working jobs and stuff like that, and I would find other things to get into. But if you really, really look at what I was prioritizing, it was my hobbies. It was video games, it was anime, it was collectibles, it was everything but the real world. You get what I'm saying? So let me find a way to bridge this whole thing. Let me find a way to bridge all of this and find out what type of point I'm trying to make. I don't know what this is. I guess this is some kind of new building. I don't know if they play in sports in there or what's going on in there. Oh, Sherwin-Williams. But then we've got a Rocket Mortgage something. I don't know what that is. So I don't know if this is really a good way to connect it, but I'm gonna sit down for a hot second. Because I think right now I'm kind of doing too much. So you guys, I don't know if you guys know a lot about my story, but I was raised by a single mother, right? Me and my two brothers. I got a younger brother, Shampoo God, and my older brother, Jaguar, right? My father left when I think my father left when I was like 5 years old. I may have been 4 or I don't know if I was 4 or 5 years old when my father left. But he was out. Him and my mother got divorced. I know when my father left. My father left when it had to be when I was 4 years old. The reason being is because he left the second that my little brother was born. Right? Him and my mother didn't get along too well. He dealt with a lot of drugs. He was a drug addict. I can't really tell you the full story because I really don't know the full story. I can't tell you what was actually going on in that time. But the way he put it to me is that he got off of drugs, but my mother never forgave him. She still talked down to him as if he was still taking the drugs. But according to him, he wasn't taking the drugs. I don't know if that's true or not. But what I do know is we grew up and we didn't have a dad around. My mother was working 3 jobs. She was a hard worker, right? She needed the money to support us. So she worked 3 jobs to support me and my brothers. She didn't want us out in the streets. You get it? She didn't want us outside. She didn't want us doing all that stuff. She was really protective of her children. And while my older brother didn't really listen, he would always go outside. He'd get in trouble, hang out with the wrong crowds and stuff. I always listened to my mother. I said, you know what, man, we got to listen to her, We got to listen to our mother. So my hobby was staying at home playing the video games anyway. So I didn't have no problem sitting in the house however long she needed me to sit in the house. Actually, I love being in the house. As I got older, that's all I wanted to do was just sit in the house and play the game. And that's because that's what I was accustomed to doing. And that's where my hobby was. That's all I cared about was video games. So I ain't got no problem sitting in the house. I'm telling my brothers, like, come on, y'all, let's just sit in the house and play the game. And I remember my older brother always telling me, like, dude, you got to get outside, bro. You got to do something, like, other than just sit in the house and play video games. Come on, bro. And I'm like, what is out there exactly? As I got older, when I got to like middle school, you start to see what other people my age are into. And I wasn't into that. They're getting into drugs, they're getting into girls and having sex with girls and stuff like that. And I'm like, nah. That's not what I was into. I'm not into that at all. I'm still into my video games, and this went from middle school to high school to even after school. That's what I was into. I'm still into my video games, and I remember people around me, some of the older folks, they're like, oh man, he gonna grow out of that. He gonna grow out of that one of these days. Watch. You ain't gonna be playing video games forever. I said, watch. I'm gonna be playing video games to the day I die. I love video games, right? I didn't see any harm in me sitting down 8 hours straight playing the game. I saw nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm having the time of my life. It's like all I ever wanted to do. When I got out of high school, I spent about a year, maybe 2 years, dedicated to just playing video games. That's all I ever wanted to do. Right? But as I continue to do that, over these years, and this is with me working the jobs. This is when I get off of work and I come home and I'm playing the game. I didn't get the same joy that I had before when I was younger. You know what I mean? That joy that I got from playing these games, it wasn't the same. I'll say it wasn't the same. It wasn't working anymore. You can even look at some of the streams that I've done. If you look back at some of the streams that I've done in the past, I'm not really having that good of a time. It's like I'm in kind of a trance. It's just like this is the norm, you know. This is just me playing a game like I always do. And while, you know, depending on what game I'm playing, like a fighting game where it requires you to think, it requires you to learn, you know, the mechanics and combos and tech and all that stuff. It does require an amount of thinking, but it's like, what am I doing? What am I doing at the end of the day? You know? And I told y'all I might feel a little differently because I got a baby on the way, right? So I'm looking like, what am I going to be teaching my son here? How to play King of Fighters? What to do when somebody hops? How you throw out an anti-air? It's like, this isn't useful information at all. You know? Because if you look further ahead, he might have kids one day. So I'm passing down things that he'll pass down to his kids. It ain't going to be Shenmue related, okay, man? And I love Shenmue. Look, I promised I would talk a little bit about Shenmue, right? And I was talking to my friend, here, I guess we'll start moving again. Oh no, I knocked over my coffee. It's okay, I didn't need it anyway. But damn, that sucks. Spilled coffee all over. This bench was perfectly fine until I showed up. I was talking to my friend Myron yesterday, right? If you look back at that YouTube video, if you look back at my Shenmue 3 hype, my excitement for Shenmue, you look at that, you look at, no, you know what? The video I was referencing to him yesterday was my Virtual Fighter 5 review, right? Where I talked about Virtual Fighter 5, right? I had this thing where it's like I'm talking on the phone. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? You talking about Virtual Fighter 5? Then what you calling me for? You know, throwing the phone out. Well, this was exaggerated and it was meant to be like comedy. It was meant to be comedic. That wasn't too far from the actual truth of how I was. I'm living in the world of video games, bro. If you ain't talking about video games, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You know, people come up to me, they talking about, man, who you voting for? I don't even know who running. I don't know who running. I don't care who running. Did you see the new trailer for the Ninja Gaiden? I don't give a fuck about who's running for president. I don't care about nothing other than the world of video games and anime and stuff like that. So you talking to me about stuff that don't matter to me because I'm living in a whole nother world. You get it? And I'm wondering, why do I feel so disconnected? Remember I was telling y'all, I'm like, man, I got brain fog. I can't think clearly, man. I don't know what's going on in my head. I'm losing it. And basically, what it boils down to is my actions weren't aligning with my purpose and my values. The things that I valued, it wasn't video games, man. It wasn't. But I didn't know what my values were. So I'm gonna tell you how this went down. I'll tell you, because I want to get all the details. So as you guys know, I was working in a restaurant. I was working at Applebee's, right? And man, the people that I work with at this restaurant were some of the nicest, kindest people I ever met, man. I gotta say, right? Even though I didn't respect myself, they always respected me, man. And they treated me with nothing but love, right? I'm trying to see if I'm supposed to be walking over here. I can't tell. So I worked in this restaurant for a year and some change. And there was a lady that started working there. She started as a host, right? I could tell she wasn't, you know, usually when I gotta have a host, it's usually like a 16, 17-year-old. I could tell she was a little older, you know? And I thought she was cute. I thought she was a cute girl. Some of the people I worked with, they said, man, you know who we think would make a cute couple? They said, you and her. You and her would make a great couple because she's taller. You know, we're both like light skinned. We're both, you know, it looked like we would make a cute couple. So I said, yeah, you know, I would ask her out, but you know, I don't know if she's got a boyfriend, right? Yeah, this is our baseball stadium. This is, used to be Jacobs Field, but now they call it Progressive Field. After the insurance place. You know, it's cool to be getting out, man. I never took y'all out to my city. Y'all never really got to see me outside of my gamer chair or whatever. Now that thing is damn near snapped in half, you ain't gonna see me in that no more. Yeah, this is our baseball stadium, if you care to see some shit like that. So one of the ladies that worked there, she found out if she had a boyfriend or not, right? Turns out she didn't have a boyfriend. She's like, oh, John, guess what? She ain't got no boyfriend. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, cool. Now I just got to ask her out, right? Never in my life had I asked a lady out before, ever. In my life. Never asked a lady out before. So this was, man, it was tough. And I can tell you why it was so tough for me to ask her out. I could feel inside that my confidence wasn't where it should be when you ask somebody out, right? Well, I asked her out and she said yes. And I was like, oh my God, you know, with me already having low self-esteem, oh man, it would have killed me if she said no, right? Because my self-esteem was already as low as it possibly could be. I mean, hell, even after she said yes, I was so shocked that I remember when we went on a date, I'm talking to her about it. I'm like, man, could you tell that I was nervous when I asked you out? She's like, no, like you looked pretty confident to me. I'm like, no, I mean, my hand was shaking, you know? I didn't have the right amount of confidence to ask a woman out. I didn't have any business doing that, right? And this is where it all, you know, looking at it, it's like, man, were things supposed to play out this way? Yeah, I guess they were, because I'm where I'm at now. You know what I'm saying? I realized my value. But at that time, I was at such a low, man, y'all don't even know. It's funny because people, you know, they look at me and they say, man, he seems pretty cool. He seems like he has it together. Maybe that's because I respect everyone. You know, I don't take it out on people. But what I felt inside, it was terrible, bro. I felt lower than low. Now, when I had her around, I felt a little bit better because I'm like, oh, man, you know, now I got somebody here to support me. I got somebody that's by my side that's not going to leave me. You know, I started to feel better because I'm like, oh, man, now I got somebody. I'm not alone, right? I didn't realize, I really didn't realize how ugly things would get between me and her. We were spending a lot of time together, you know. Me and her were together like every night after work, you know. She's at my place. To the point where I said, you may as well just move in, right? She was living with her mother at the time. And, yeah, I said, you may as well just move in. Right? So before you know it, I moved her in. She was the nicest girl I ever met, honestly. I mean, she was so loving. She made me feel loved. The love I couldn't show myself, she was showing to me. Right? Well, it got to a point where she wasn't showing me that love anymore. You know, she took it away. And I didn't see the reason. I didn't understand why I wasn't getting the love that she was giving me in the beginning. Right? I even talked to her about it. I said, what happened to, she tells me, she said, it's different when you live with a person, you know? And I'm thinking in my head, no, it's not any different. I'm treating you the same way I treated you when we first met. So why are you treating me differently? I could not understand it, right? Like I said, she was so sweet. She was the sweetest girl I ever met. And I remember telling everybody how sweet she was. And it was shortly after she moved in, I noticed some changes, you know. We used to wake up every morning and I say, hey, good morning. And she said good morning back. Like, hey, good morning. You know, it was a cool thing. Then one morning we woke up and I said good morning. And she didn't say shit back. It was cold. Nothing. She didn't even look in my direction, bro. And I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, and this is funny too, because a lot of the content and stuff that I was consuming, I talked about Buddhism, you know what I mean? Becoming selfless, putting my focus on other people, not on myself, just becoming selfless, right? Just putting all of my love and care into others. So all I was focused about with her was being loving and caring, right? I didn't care how she treated me. I didn't care what she said to me. It didn't, in my eyes, I thought part of being a man was you have to be able to put up with this stuff, you know? You got to be able to put up with her disrespecting you all the time, you know? And that's basically what ended up happening. It was a lot of disrespect. But because I didn't interpret it as disrespect, or I thought it was something that I needed to just deal with, I was dealing with it in all the wrong ways, man. I was dealing with it in all the wrong ways, right? When she woke up that morning, right? And it may seem like something small to y'all, right? You may think, who gives a fuck if a person says good morning back or not, right? She needed to be held accountable. Don't pretend to be someone that you're not. If I say good morning to you and you say good morning back, that's something you should continuously do. Don't pick and choose. That ain't right. That's not something I should have tolerated. You get what I'm saying? Because it's phony, right? Why be phony? Let's be real. You don't like saying good morning in the morning? Let's have a conversation about it. But it shouldn't be something that I just ignore, right? I mean, y'all, it got so bad. It got so bad. You know what she told me? She tells me, she says, but see, I don't have any pets or anything, right? But when she moved in, she brought the dogs with her. And I said, yeah, bring the dogs. Even though I'm allergic, okay? So it got to the point where my gums are bleeding as an allergic reaction to the dog fur, right? We're sleeping with the dogs. Dogs are sleeping with us. And I was ignoring that. I was like, oh, it's okay. I'll get over it, you know. Maybe this is something I can get used to. I know it doesn't make a lick of sense, y'all. I know. But I was just trying to be, what did I call it? Radical acceptance? I made a video talking about radical acceptance and how I should just accept everything, right? Me watching those Buddhist teachings and everything led me to thinking that way. And, you know, there's still a lot of good things you can learn from that Buddhism, you know? I still agree with a lot of this stuff, but man, dude, that ain't no way to live for me. You know, that's a way to live alone, maybe. But not with another person. Because I prioritize them the entire time. And I forget about myself, right? Because remember, I was trying to become selfless. And I did become selfless. I will say I was selfless. It was always about her. I'm like, what do you want? What do you need? You know? Even when she was disrespecting me, she told me, like I said, she said, the dogs come before you. You know that, right? I said, oh, okay. I said, yeah. I said, this is something that I just have to accept. If she really thinks that the dogs come before me, then okay. No, bro, no. That's a wild thing to say. And for her to not be joking around when she said it, then there was the other instance where she told me she wanted to be called Big Dog now, right? And I'm thinking, oh, this is funny. She wants me to call her Big Dog. All right, Big Dog, right? I start calling her Big Dog. Do y'all see what was going on here? She stripped away all the manhood that I had. Well, what little man, I don't think I really had any manhood, honestly. It was like a test. It was testing. She was testing me to see if I was worthy to be her man. She found out I was a boy. She left. She gone. She packed her bags. I said, no, baby, please stay. Abuse me some more. She had to go. Right? I'm getting ready to be a father. She found out I'm a boy. How disappointing, right? Now, she's not completely innocent, right? There's a lot of disrespect. A lot of stuff that I don't think really should have went on. But at the end of the day, I'm the one who rated it. I'm the one who said it was okay for her to treat me that way. If I say it's okay, right? I know this is a really long story, but I mean, it's a lot of shit that happened that, I didn't tell y'all about. So, this next part is like, ugh. So, her sister has this guy around, right? And I met him. I thought he was a pretty cool guy. There's actually some similarities between me and him at the time. Her sister doesn't like this guy at all. She really can't stand him. But she's like, he always sticks around, so I keep him around. He's always around. I can't get rid of him. Well, the truth is, y'all, she's been using this guy. This guy is a bigger sucker than I was. I mean, a way bigger sucker. A guy she doesn't like, right? He buys her a PlayStation 5, right? A couple weeks later, she tricks him into buying her sister a PS5. My lady. The lady that was living with me, right? The mother of my child. So this goofball, right? 2 PlayStation 5s. She told him that the first one got lost in the mail or something, that she didn't get it, right? He probably didn't question it. He's probably like, oh, okay, it's all right. I'll just go get another one, right? We were playing, I remember it was one of our last times playing a game together. We were playing Call of Duty Warzone, right? It was me, her sister, and him, the sucker, right? We're playing Call of Duty Warzone. Yeah, we had a pretty good game. We had a good time. It was a couple days later, her sister is FaceTiming her, right? She's in the car, she's at work. She's got some other guy in the car with her. Some guy none of us know, right? One of the guys she works with, I guess. They're all talking about this guy behind his back, right? And, I'm listening to it because I'm sitting on the couch. We were in the middle of an episode of Naruto, right? I was really getting into this anime. But wait a second, her sister called. Pause the anime. Got to talk to my sister, right? And, they start talking about this guy behind his back, talking about how he's a pussy, right? Her and her sister are talking about how this guy is a pussy, right? And I mean, that already didn't really sit right with me, right? But what really set me off, because I ended up kind of flipping out and yelling, something she told me she would never tolerate another man yelling at her, right? That guy that they were in the car with, the guy they were in the car with says, he says, hey, like, he's like, I know who y'all are talking about. Y'all are talking about, what's his name? It's like, I don't know. What's wrong with him? He seemed like a pretty cool guy to me, right? And my lady chimes in. She's like, oh, well, you know, he act like he all tough, but if you confront him, he don't really stand on business. Whatever. He said, that's crazy, man. Because, like, when I look at him, to me, he just looked like a pussy. Right? That's what the guy says. And when he said that, bro, when he said that, it was like it was a flashback, bro. It took me back to middle school. It took me back to, man, this is a whole nother thing I got to talk to y'all about. This whole being tough shit, you know what I mean? Being a man and all that shit. It all kind of came back to me, bro. It all kind of came back to me. When I was in middle school, there was this whole everybody's trying to be tough shit going on. Everybody's trying to be tough. And I was right in when I was in line with everyone else, man. I was in with everybody else. I used to walk around the house smiling, right? I used to walk around the house with a smile on my face. My older brother was like, what the fuck are you smiling for, bro? That shit is soft. That shit is weak. Don't be fucking smiling around here, bro. They gonna think you sweet. Took away my smile. I stopped smiling. So I'm in school trying to look tough all the fucking time. I'm walking around like this. It's stupid. It's laughable. It's laughable, bro. You think you gotta be tough all the fucking time? For what? For who? If you ask me, that's not being tough. That's being weak. Let somebody tell me I can't smile. What? It's ridiculous, man. Yeah, there was this whole thing where you had to be tough. If somebody said something wrong, you got to beat them up. So I spent middle school and high school doing that. And I lost damn near every fight I got into because I didn't know how to fight. And I didn't really care to fight either. All I cared about was video games. Wasn't until high school that I decided I wasn't going to get into fights anymore because I didn't see the point. I got better control over my anger because I did have anger issues for a little while there. But all of this stuff kind of came back to me. I started thinking about like my uncles and my cousins on how they all talked about being tough all the time. They always would say, you got to stand up for yourself. And I'm like, no, I don't like that idea, right? This whole concept of respect, I thought was stupid. I know I'm jumping all over the place. We're going to get back to it, y'all. But check this out. There was my uncle. See, my uncle wasn't a pimp. My great uncle was a pimp. They were both obsessed with this. Here's the thing. My uncle was influenced by his uncle, right? Because his uncle was a pimp. His uncle valued respect over everything. It was always about respect. And man, I remember I called him. You know, he's not. He's passed away since. It was, I think it was about maybe 3 years ago when I was feeling really good. I was feeling really powerful. And I thought it was because I gave all my money away and stuff like that. I remember calling him and just telling him how stupid this obsession with respect was, you know? And, he thought it was hilarious. He said, man, you gotta be a fool. He said, you gotta be a fool. He said, you walking around with no respect at all? I said, no, it's pointless. Who needs respect? I said, okay, all right. You know, he didn't argue with me or nothing. He thought it was hilarious. And I'm looking like, well, look, I told him, you know, I showed him. Everybody thinks this respect thing is so important, right? Now, all these years later, I'm seeing the importance of respect, right? It's kind of funny how that happened. The way that respect was presented to me, it wasn't appealing. I didn't see the value in it. I didn't see any value in respect. It's funny because even though I didn't value respect, I thought it was stupid, I always respected the people around me. You get it? So this is why people were having a hard time really seeing any issues with me, because although I didn't feel any value in myself, even though I was walking around feeling terrible, I've always treated the people around me right, you know, because I always loved people. I always valued people, right? I valued people more than I valued myself. That's why I'm giving them all my things, you know. So to go back to what was going on with the guy, they were calling him a pussy, right? And I lost it. I lost my temper. And you know, part of the reason is because I felt like I was being looked at the same way. They're looking at me like a pussy, right? I did everything for her. I mean, I'm walking the dogs, I'm taking out the trash, I'm buying her whatever she wants, asking her if she's hungry, asking what she wants to do. What do you want to do today? Telling her she doesn't have to work, she can just stay at home, I'll do all the work. You ain't got to do nothing. But I said, you know, this is what being a good man is all about. You do everything for the lady. You know, I wanted to be the very man that my mother should have had around when we were growing up, right? And it's pretty funny because that was one of the things that my cousin pointed out to me. When we were younger, like I said, it was me and my two brothers, you know, single mother, she's working 3 jobs. You know, she's got a job for each brother. She was stressed out, you know, she had bought a house and we tore the house apart just being young and stupid. She wasn't happy about this, so she would yell at us a lot. She would call us all types of bitches and hoes and all this stuff, right? There was a lot of disrespect, you know? And my cousin was pointing out, because I grew up with our mother talking to us that way, it makes sense that it would be acceptable for my spouse to talk to me that way. You know what I'm saying? For me to think that it was acceptable and it was cool. And I'm like, damn, I never thought about that because I wasn't looking that far back. But yeah, when I was growing up, you know, you can't, what am I going to say? Am I going to check my mother? Hey, mother, you're not going to talk to me like that. Are you fucking crazy, man? You're 12 years old. You're 12 years old. You think you can talk back to your mom and say, hey, you're going to respect me, mom? It didn't work like that, bro. And by the way, you know, I didn't give a fuck about respect anyway. So there was no way I was going to talk back to her like that. So, yeah, they were calling this guy a pussy behind his back, and I lost it, man. I lost it. You know, I start yelling at the guy over the phone, and I'm like, you said he just looks like a pussy. I'm like, well, let's see you. Maybe you look like a pussy. Let's see what you look like. You know, I start yelling, and I start getting loud, and my lady doesn't understand it at all. She doesn't get it. She doesn't care to get it. The fact that I'm yelling is enough for her to say, you know what? I'm going to my sister's. I don't have to put up with this. And I said, no, wait a second. You know, I wasn't yelling at you. I was yelling at the guy on the phone. She's like, yeah, whatever. I'm packing up my shit. Getting my PS5. I said, no. I said, come on, please don't leave. I remember just begging. I think I got on my knees and pleaded. Please don't go. It was, it's humiliating, you know, looking back on it. I mean, as low as I was, I've never been so low in my life. Begging and pleading, the person that's been disrespecting you the entire time, to please come back. Don't leave. Stay here and disrespect me. You gotta be borderline insane to want someone that's continuously disrespecting you. It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense at all, right? I didn't realize I was so codependent. Even with all the disrespect, I just felt better having another person there. Even if that person was, you know, didn't have any respect for me. So when she left, man, I was breaking down, bro. I was breaking down. I was going through some of the roughest times I think I've ever had in my life, man. I've never felt as bad as I did. You know, the little bit of good that I felt when she was around, when we had first got together and she had moved in, was taken away from me, right? I was back to feeling like shit. But it was actually, I had felt worse than I had ever felt in my life before. It's terrible, right? And I will say that carried on for a long time. You know, even when I was doing streams and I think that's why I was doing streams. You know, I was trying to look for some type of escape because I didn't know what to do with myself, man. You know, I knew that I needed to work on myself, and people are like, well, you need to just work on yourself right now. You need to focus on yourself right now. But I didn't know who the fuck I even was. I didn't know myself. How am I work on myself if I don't even know who the hell I am? All I know is video games. I know that. We can talk video games. You know, I know way more about video games than I do about myself. I can tell you about NeW. Tell you all about it. But me, Jabriel, as a person, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't really get them. I don't understand. I'm not really seeing it. So it was one day, well, it was actually one night. I had this dream. What's going on, fellas? So it was one night I had this dream. I don't know if you guys heard me talk about this before. I talk about sleep paralysis, right? I had one of the worst sleep paralysis episodes I've ever had in my life, right? I think I had spent like 7 hours. How you doing? I spent like 7 hours playing Shin Megami Tensei. And it was like right after that I went to go to bed and I couldn't even sleep because I had this nightmare that I was having. I remember I was asleep, or I was nodding off. And the way that sleep paralysis works is like you sleep, but it looks like you're awake. So while I thought I was asleep, I start seeing this shadowy figure, right, on my right side. Okay? And I could just feel fear, just complete fear emanating from this thing. Well, I don't know if it was coming from it. It was coming from me, I'm pretty sure. Because I was terrified, bro. Just paralyzed in fear. So I see this thing start appearing, and I start focusing on my left, right? Because this thing is on the right side. So I'm trying to ignore it. I'm trying to, you know, get away from it. So I start looking in the opposite direction. I start looking in the left. Right? Well, I turn over to my left, and a smaller shadowy figure starts forming. Now I'm surrounded. I can't look left or right because both of these entities or whatever are keeping me from looking because I'm in so much fear that I can't even look at these damn things. Right? And I had so much fear in my heart, bro. I thought I was going to die. It felt like I was going to die, honestly. My heart had never beaten so fast. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced as far as sleep paralysis goes. And I had work in the morning, right? So that morning, it was funny. I actually had recorded a video that day. I ended up deleting it because You know, when I had that lack of clarity, I have a hard time explaining things. So I couldn't even explain it right. So I just ended up deleting the video. Because I'm like, this motherfucker can't even speak English. I ended up just deleting it. It was just incoherent. It didn't make any sense. I got to work that day, and I remember I reached out to her sister. Because I remember, there's a whole nother thing I don't really need to tell y'all, but basically I let her use my car to go to Texas so she could see her family, right? So the whole time I was using her sister's car, but I noticed on her sister's car, she had a lot of like religious stickers and stuff that said like, you know, believe in God and God is the truth and stuff like that. So I reached out to her sister and I'm like, hey, like, are you into like religion and stuff? Because I noticed all the stickers. And she's like, well, I believe in God, but no, that's about it, really. It goes no further than that. Because I was wondering if she like goes to church. And I was asking her, like, is this where people's confidence comes from? Like maybe people going to church and believing strongly in God, that's where people's confidence stems from, maybe. Because I'm wondering why I'm feeling so bad about myself. And I'm like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's my belief in God needs to be stronger or something. There's got to be something, right? So I start using that ChatGPT. And I start asking ChatGPT if, you know, confidence comes from religion. Does religion give you confidence? So ChatGPT was saying something about values and stuff. Basically led me down the path of values, right? It talked about values being a source of people's confidence. So I said, what the hell are values? I got to figure out what values are. ChatGPT, what values are? Then I'm like, what are my values? So ChatGPT gave me a list of 10 values. I looked at the list. I picked maybe one thing. I said, do you got 10 more? It sent me 10 more. I said, do you got any more? It sent me 10 more. I did this. I looked at about a list of 50 values and I just picked the ones that resonated with me the most, right? Honesty, patience, resilience, discipline, stuff like that. And I sat down and I wrote them down on a piece of paper. And I said, okay, these are my values, right? But I kept fucking forgetting them. I kept forgetting them. I had to keep looking at the list. I'm like, what are these values again? Because I forget. I feel bad. This guy's out in the middle of the street now. We had a guy from earlier. I bought him a coffee, right? And there were two other guys next to him. They're like, hey, could you get me something? And I'm like, well, you saw it. I just got him something. I can't get everybody something. Then I walked past him and another guy's like, hey, man, can you get me something? And I told him the same thing. You know, I want to help out, but I can't help everybody out. As long as I help, you know, if I help one person out, that's enough, right? Can't help everybody out. What's going on? I kind of lost where the hell I was. He threw me off. How you doing? Yeah, that's Tower City right behind me. So, after writing down this list of values, and I think the correct term is core values. It's like your values as a human, the things you value above all. After memorizing these values, I started to feel a little bit better. You know what I mean? I still didn't really have any confidence or anything, but I just focused on my values and things that I valued, right? And then I started thinking, well, what are some of the actions that I take that align with my values? Something I never thought about before because I didn't have any values. So I'm looking at life a little bit differently. I'm focusing on values, right? And there was this video that my little brother had sent me that I had never saw. Basically like one of them little podcast videos or whatever. And it was this guy who, I guess he used to be a pimp, right? He used to be a pimp. I don't think he's a pimp anymore. I don't think anybody's a pimp anymore. But he started talking about how there's this big misconception where people think that pimps, which, you know, some of the time they are just abusers, are people that just beat the women and disrespect them and shit like that. Well, this guy was talking about how that's not the case at all, with him at least. He respects women, you know, and the women respect him. They respect him so much that they'll stick around if he's got 2 or 3 ladies already. That's how much they respect him. And I'm looking at respect much different now, of course. You know, I'm looking at my situation with my lady and how lack of respect was the very reason that she left. You get it? If I would have demanded respect from her, right? There's a chance that she might have refused to do that and left. But if she didn't have any respect for me, she was going to leave anyway. So I'm like, you know, everything's starting to click all of a sudden. And I'm like, wait, what the hell? And when I think about my values and I think about my actions, I'm thinking, why the hell am I sitting here playing video games for 7 hours? I start looking at video games differently. I'm like, do these video games align with my purpose? Do they align with my values? Do they align with my goals? How are these video games helping me in any way? They got me through some rough times, but that's what they should be used for. Not, you know, to the point where you just continue to abuse. It's an abuse thing, you know? It's like an alcoholic. What do? You know, they turn to alcohol because it helps them escape their problems. I was turning to video games to help me escape my problems. But to be honest, I didn't know what else to do. I mean, how do you work on yourself? All I could think to do was play video games. I mean, I ain't got shit else to do, right? How y'all doing? So when I started looking at the games from a different perspective and saying, what purpose do they really serve? That's when I realized I've wasted most of my life doing something that don't align with my purpose. But it makes sense because I didn't know my purpose. I didn't know my values. So, and I tell you, that's where my source of confidence comes from. My source of confidence comes from following things that align with my values. Treating myself like I do have value. See, I just had to realize what my value was. I didn't know. It wasn't clear to me. And that's why I had to make that thank you video telling y'all thank you, because even though I didn't see my value, y'all saw it. By the way I treated everyone. By the way I treated y'all. You could tell. You're like, man, this okay. I see this guy. I get him. Now that I understand myself a lot better, it's all starting to click. It makes sense. All that mumbo jumbo that people talk about where it's like, oh man, anything you put your mind to, you can have it. You know, shit like that didn't never make sense to me. I'm like, what are they talking about? What? Might be true for you, but I'm different, bro. I think I got ADHD or something. I can't focus most of the time, man. I don't get it. It don't make sense. Now I'm seeing it crystal clear. There were moments where I would feel like this. They would come and go. I can tell it's here to stay now. This confidence that I have ain't going nowhere. As long as I do things that align with my value, okay? If I go home right now, I spend 10 hours playing a game, I might just forget who the fuck I am, what my values are, and just get tied up in the world of video games again. That ain't no way I'm trying to live, bro. My confidence is through the roof. I decided I'm buying a suit, man. I'm getting a suit. It's not going to be a real expensive suit. $500. Looked online and said a man should own 5 suits. 5. I don't think because I'm not playing video games anymore that I'm not thinking about Kazuma Kiryu when I'm going to go get a suit. Or Akiyama. Or any of them. It was just funny because I always try to find a way to incorporate a video game into like life's lessons and stuff. There was that point where hey, how y'all doing? One of the reasons I gave all my money away when I was feeling good about myself and I felt confidence and I was just so overwhelmed with power, thinking I didn't need anything anymore, thinking this is, yeah, you know? I didn't understand where that confidence was coming from. I get it now, it's all clear to me. But I had decided to give all my money away because I'm like, it was similar to what Akiyama did. I wanted to be like Akiyama. Akiyama is a cool motherfucker, but Akiyama ain't a real person, okay? Akiyama ain't real. But I can be like Akiyama. That's what I was thinking. I still don't see anything wrong with what I did. I don't have any regrets over doing that. But it's just funny how video games are so influential to me. To the point where I'm doing things just because I think one of the video game characters might have did it. I remember when I was in school, the whole time I'm thinking about Ryo Hazuki. I said, man, I'm just like Ryo. Ryo be waiting on the bus. I'm waiting on the bus. Ryo be waiting on the bus. I'm waiting on the bus. I was even walking around talking like Ryo. Man, I thought I was Ryo. How you doing? All right. But it's funny, I actually like this job guy a lot better than Ryo. I actually like myself a lot better now. To the point, man, I look in the mirror and I say, man, it's you. I said, damn, you're a pretty cool dude. I got to give you some credit, man. I wasn't giving myself any credit at all, you know? No credit at all. I ain't gonna hold y'all for too much longer, but I was telling my friend Myron yesterday, I would wake up and I would just feel like shit. And it still happens. Almost every day I kind of wake up feeling like shit. But I never forget that I got value. You know what I mean? Even if I'm to go home and spend 9 hours playing a video game, I can't get lost in that and forget that I got value at the end of the day. That's when I start fucking up. How you doing? What's going on? Yeah, as long as you remember that you got value, I think you'll be all right. At least I can tell you what worked for me. Because I let the way that I feel determine on how I felt about myself. You know what I'm saying? So if I felt like shit, I'm like, oh man, I must not be shit. But that ain't the reality of it. There's that Tower City again. Yeah, it's actually a lot nicer at night. I might come out here one of these nights. You know, Cleveland looks a little different at night. Downtown Cleveland. Yeah, but that's it. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I'm trying to just look over to make sure I didn't miss nothing. I mean, shit, I didn't told y'all everything. I mean, I might have left out a few details here and there, but overall, I think I've covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover. All right, well, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all's day. Thanks for checking out the video. I'm gonna go ahead and edit this up real quick so I can upload it for the day. All right, y'all be easy, all right? And don't forget you got value. Don't forget, even if you gotta do the same thing that I did and write them down or whatever, it's worth it, bro. It's worth it. Trust me.